This is video 1.1 and it's the first video in this online course. And in this first video I'm going to set out the course content and structure. So what will we cover on this course and how do the various modules fit together? And to be able to do that I will need to explain something called the modern theory of business strategy, as well as another important concept, the 3 layers of strategic analysis. So the modern theory of business strategy states that in order for any business to maximize profitability, it has to find the best way in which it can use its own internal resources in accordance with the opportunities that are presented to it by the external marketplace in which it operates. And therefore strategy must be tailored in accordance with the nature of the internal resources of the business itself and tailored in accordance with the opportunities that are presented to it by its external marketplace. So we are trying to achieve what is sometimes referred to as a strategic fit between the internal environment, which is the business itself, and the external environment, its marketplace. We're trying to match what the business can do with what its marketplace actually wants. And it sounds like an incredibly obvious concept, but it's surprising how often, for example, investors will simply invest in what appears to be a very exciting, perhaps fast growth marketplace, but without actually understanding the business itself that they are investing in and whether it's got the necessary resources to really succeed within this exciting fast growth marketplace. Or similarly, they'll invest in a business with a great set of resources but whose marketplace is about to dry up. So before we can even think about developing any kind of strategy, we need to know exactly what's going on internally within the business and within its external marketplace. So we need a means of analysis. We need a means of analysing the external and internal environments. The only problem though is there's a huge amount of data for us to consider when we look both internally and externally, and it can be difficult for us to know where to start. So thinking about factors within the external environment, economic conditions, fashions, tastes, trends, laws, regulations, technologies. What are our competitors doing? What are our customers doing? Are their needs changing? What are our suppliers doing? Then looking internally, have we spent enough on our plant and equipment? Are our employees skilled enough? What are the state of the finances? What are the state of the premises? And so on. So where do we start? Well, to take a quote from the co-founder of London Business School, a guy called Charles Handy, the first thing to do when confronted with a load of data, impressions and confused signals is to put them into a framework, rather as the doctor learns to turn symptoms into a diagnosis. Only then can the treatment begin. So we need to use some kind of framework which will help us conceptualize the various factors that lie internally within the business and within its external marketplace. And by far the most popular, but as we'll see, not particularly powerful framework that we can use to simultaneously look internally and externally is a SWOT framework, where SWOT is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So we look internally at the strengths and weaknesses within the business and externally at the opportunities and threats within its external marketplace. And these are commonly used as a very basic starting point in the development of strategy. So here is a simple example of what a SWOT framework might look like for a given business. So perhaps internally it's got a talented and skilled workforce, a real strength, but maybe aging machinery a potential weakness. Perhaps externally it's in a growing marketplace, a real opportunity, but maybe it's got a strong competitor, a real threat. And as I say, these are commonly used as a very basic starting point in the development of strategy. But that's all they ever can be, because a SWOT framework is actually a very weak tool. Because all we're really doing when we're using a SWOT framework, particularly when we're looking at the external environment in terms of the opportunities and threats, is brainstorming. A SWOT framework does not provide us anything in the way of any kind of deep market structural analysis. Nor does it really help us understand what the business is truly capable of. So we need to apply something a bit more sophisticated than a SWOT framework to really understand the business and its external marketplace. The first thing we need to appreciate in looking at this is that the internal and external environments are completely different beasts. So we can't really use the same framework to analyse them both, at least not in any kind of powerful way. The internal environment, of course, is made up of a finite amount of factors over which we've got control. We know who our employees are, we know the state of our finances, we know the state of the plant and equipment. However, the external environment is made up of an infinite amount of factors over which we've got little or no control. Economic conditions, fashions, taste, trends, laws, regulations, technologies, our customers, our competitors, our suppliers, and so on. So we have to think about these very separately and use very different frameworks to analyse them. The second thing we need to do is to split this external environment into two further layers, into those external factors that specifically sit within the business's industry, and this is made up of factors such as its customers, competitors and suppliers, and because these are industry specific factors, this is referred to as the industry layer. And there's a second layer within the external environment that's made up of all those factors that do not specifically sit within a business's industry, but that are still extremely important for its success. And this is made up of factors such as economic conditions, fashions, taste, trends, laws, regulations, technologies. And because these are of a more general nature rather than being industry specific, this is referred to as the general layer. So we can see we've actually got three layers of strategic analysis. One internal layer being the business itself, and two external layers. The industry layer, customers, competitors and suppliers, and the general layer, economic conditions, fashions, taste, trends, laws, regulations and technologies. So let's see what we've covered so far in this video 1.1. We started off by looking at the modern theory of business strategy, which said that in order for any business to maximize profitability, it had to find the best way in which it could use its own internal resources in accordance with the opportunities that are presented to it by the external marketplace in which it operates. So before we can even think about developing any kind of strategy, we need to know exactly what's going on internally within the business and within its external marketplace. And in looking at this, we've just said there are actually three layers of strategic analysis. One internal layer being the business itself, and two external layers. The industry layer, customers, competitors and suppliers, and the general layer, economic conditions, fashions, taste, trends, laws, regulations and technologies. And this then helps us understand the course content and structure. Because for the remainder of this first module, we're going to look at how we can analyse the industry layer. Then in module 2, we'll look at how we can analyse the internal layer. And then module 3, how we analyse the general layer. So as I say, for the remainder of module 1, we'll look at how we can analyse the industry layer. And in the next video, we'll look at how we can very quickly analyse any industry. But this will actually be part 1. There'll be 3 short videos on this. And then in video 1.5, we will look at how we can use our industry analysis to develop strategy. And then video 1.6, next steps. Then we'll be ready to move on to module 2, the internal layer, and then module 3, the general layer. So as I say, for the remainder of module 1, we'll look at how we can analyse the industry layer, and in the next video, we will start to look at how we can very quickly analyse any industry. So please now click on video 1.2.